let's go over Edward Jenkins. And I'm going to share my screen so we can watch this video.
Good evening. I'm Edward Jenkins, and I'll be running for the office of Lake County Sheriff. I'm currently the Deputy Chief of the Lake County Sheriff's Department, where I've served just short of 30 years. A little bit about myself: I was born and raised in the fantastic city of Gary. I'm a graduate of Gary Roosevelt High School, married to my wife for just short of 31 years. We have 4 children, 1 grandchild. In my time, I like to tell people that excuse me, I am the American dream that came true. I started at the county cutting grass. Eventually, I got hired in the jail, where I served in the jail a couple of years, eventually working my way up to the police department. In my time on the police department, I worked everything from patrol to CSI to civil to investigations. There is not one city or town in Lake County I have not been a police officer in. I tell people that I've been a police officer from the lake to the river, from the state line to the county line, for just short of 30 years. I've done a lot of good work as far as helping people, all the citizens of Lake County. What are my goals for sheriff of Lake County? Right now in Lake County, there is, as far as law enforcement is concerned, there's a dying interest as far as law enforcement is concerned. One of the things we need to do is get young people back interested in getting into law enforcement. Our jail currently is budgeted for 222 correctional officers. We currently sit at 150. We have to find a way to get young people back interested in law enforcement. Second, I would like to have, we do have a no-kill animal shelter, but I'd like to expound on it. I would also like to start animal abuse registry, where if you abuse an animal, you go into animal abuse registry and you can no longer own a pet. Secondly, we found that a lot of our young people are being bullied to the point where people, they don't feel like they're being heard, and young people are committing suicide. So one of the things I would like to do would be have a hotline where young people can call in, or somebody can call in anonymously, be hooked with a qualified mental health professional, work with schools, the families, to make sure that no young person hurts themselves ever again. Vivitrol. What is Vivitrol? Vivitrol is for those people who suffer from opioid or fentanyl addictions. When we need to get these citizens back productive in our society. Mental health awareness. Mental health awareness is very important. It should never involve or result in deadly confrontation with police officers. So let's make sure that we protect those who suffer from mental health issues and make sure we continue to get them back productive members of society. As the sheriff, I would do everything I could to make sure all of our Lake County citizens are safe. Everybody receive the same treatment from the lake to the river, from the state line to the county line. I ask for your endorsement. I ask for your support. All I ask is that on May 5th, you remember Edward Jenkins, number 1 on the ballot, number 1 in your heart. Thank you for your time.
All righty. My friends, what do we think about Mr. Jenkins?
So this is kind of a funny. I have a friend who worked at the jail many years ago with Edward Jenkins, and she really never says anything really nice about people she's worked with in that, because she's very picky. And she said, and I quote, "He's a great man." And I get what she's saying there. I like that he's from Gary. I like that he something that he said on his website, that he wants to go from criminalization to compassionate care as far as mental health goes. And that's not to say we don't make people accountable when they commit crimes because of addiction, but we can't just warehouse people for the rest of their lives, because eventually they come out and they will do harm to us again. And I really like that he's already in pretty much the job. In my mind, I envision them sitting in either the same office or like right next door to each other, and him, being aware of what is going on day to day with the men and women out in the field. And my initial impression of him is I like him.
All right, Renee, let's turn to you.
So, I've met a number of these candidates. I moderated a panel in East Chicago where all of these candidates were present. So just to say that, um, But my question for Mr. Jenkins, around Mr. Jenkins, is that, he's been at Lake County for a long time. He's been there through some of the tenure of some of the folks who've had problems. And I, as a deputy chief, um, why hasn't he attempted to implement any of these initiatives already? Like, you don't, I mean, is there something in writing that I don't know about that says you can't do it now? You couldn't have done it a year ago? Like, why are you only talking about doing it now that you're running for sheriff? And so, um, I just got questions. Um, I think that if he wins, that he will be able to go in and, at least on the law enforcement side, um, contribute a lot. And I have no problem with the things that he's named as priorities. But those are some of the questions that I have, quite frankly. Um,
Mhm.
I'm not attributing any of that the things that have happened to him, but I'm just like, you're in proximity to this leadership. If you have ideas about how to better run or execute the department, why weren't you trying to move those? Why weren't any of your initiatives adopted under the current administration as deputy chief? I'm just saying.
Shannon?
So I actually have a lot of the same concerns as Renee. That's kind of how I feel like, yes, experience, he has it, 30 years, awesome. He's kind of already, like you said, he's the deputy chief of the Lake County Sheriff's Office. So, he knows everybody, probably knows the role pretty well, but you hear about all these issues and you're there. And that was one of the things. I was at a sheriff's forum and all the candidates are talking about all these issues and he's kind of like, it's fine. Like, yeah, we need to make a few tweaks. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like Renee said, his priorities, I mean, they're great. I uh wanted to comment on a couple things Carmen had said too. The mental health component really sits with me. I do feel he is very passionate about that, and that is very much needed. We need to do something there, not just throw people in jail. And we need people trained to know how to deal with those situations. The other thing that stood out to me with one of his priorities was the bullying. I know doing a little bit more research on the websites that Tracy provided, he talked more about that, wanting to have those good relationships with the schools, which I think is important. And I really liked the bullying hotline idea of having a mental health worker running that and working with those kids and parents. And so, so yeah, but I do have concerns that you're there and nothing's been done. So,
Renee?
Yeah, Shannon, I had a question about that whole bullying thing because I wonder about whether that being centered with law enforcement, like certainly they need to be trained, they need to be better advocates around mental health related issues, but I wonder if it's more impactful and effective to have mental health professionals and really expand the resources that social workers and other agencies who are already kind of doing that work improve their capacity and their linkage to law enforcement rather than having kind of the sheriff's department do that. So I just wondered if you had any opinions about that because I kind of have mixed feelings. I appreciate the emphasis on it. I just wonder about the execution.
the way I understood it, and I could, this is just my interpretation, so I could be completely wrong, but I thought he had said he did want like a mental health worker running that.
Before anyone have any last thoughts about Mr. Jenkins before we move on? And we'll talk more at length about his ideas about mental health because the panel has a lot of thoughts on that in that segment of the show. Carmen?
The one thing that I would say that could be an answer, I'm not invested in this individual, nor do I know the setup of the office, but if they have a budget for 222 sheriff's deputies and they only have 150, that's 72 people short. How can you initiate anything? You can't even initiate proper crime reduction at that rate. I would say getting people to want to be in law enforcement is probably priority one. And secondly, social workers. And I can tell you just my brief, like a year and a half time as a CASA volunteer, that we are at such a shortage of social workers that it's ridiculous. So, I say we need both. And I think it's wonderful to have social workers training police officers and that, but we definitely need both. But again, not social workers to make people not accountable for things they do. I want to make that really clear, because people on the opposite side seem to think that if we say bring a social worker in, it means give them a pass.
All righty, folks. Well, we will pick back up the mental health issues at length, because that is one of the top 2 things people ask to talk about. But for now, let's move on to our next candidate.